If you've been following my recent podcasts, link in the description below, you know that I have been pretty homesick of 2D animation. Animation studios have now been obsessed with 3D animation, and while some definitely gone outside its comfort zone to create animated masterpieces, I'm not gonna lie, I think I've grown tired of the Pixar 3D animation style. While the animation style is still great and an accomplishment of its own, I've been missing out on the vibrant, stylistic, and unique creativity behind 2D animation. But with that being said, I love the Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. This has to be one of the most visually creative and breathtaking animated pieces I've seen. Up in the ranks of Mitchell's vs. Machines and Into the Spider-Verse. The blocky texture of the turtles, the transparent imagery of the mystic powers, along with all the colorful environments make this feel like a full-fledged comic book style movie. And it all works because the turtles have very comic book-esque personalities and stories that go hand in hand perfectly with the animation. And it's not the animation either. The general story and the characters work immensely well with just the overall atmosphere of the movie. I'm not gonna lie, a time travel movie has never been something I've been in love with. I think the concept works on some occasions, but most of the time comes off as very messy and unravels in on itself. However, something about this particular story just works. I think it solely has to do with the fact that they don't play in too hard with the logistics of time travel itself, and focuses on how the future turtles resemble the present turtles, making the concept more character driven. But more on that later, as I've grown weirdly attached to these iterations of the turtles. Since the beginning of time itself, the turtles have always had one core set of personalities and traits. Leonardo is a badass leader who is very by the books, but still always has more to learn and can be seen as overconfident. Raphael is the rogue of the group who does things his own way and gets in a lot of trouble with his brothers and Splinter because of this. Donnie is a high-tech genius, and Mikey is a lovable goofball who is solely used as a comedic relief character that occasionally has a crush on April O'Neil. But we don't talk about that version. This has been the exact same 4 personalities throughout the entire franchise. And while I admit, this can get very old depending on the person, but there's always such charm and character drama that you can tell with all these traits that age very well. Now this is normally the part where I say something about how I don't like the drastic change in character dynamics and how they radically alter something that has always worked to begin with. Well, this ain't that type of video. I love the sudden switch in dynamics. Mikey and Donnie are more or less the same, but Raph and Leo have a complete twist in character from what we're used to seeing, and I could not be happier. Coming from someone who has yet to see the TV series, the switch in personality feels so refreshing that doesn't take away from the core aspects of these characters. Leo is an arrogant, selfish child who'd rather do things his way instead of listen to his brothers, while Raph is the leader who feels responsible for taking care of the rest of the brothers and comes off as very harsh. I have no idea why, but it almost feels like this is the iteration of these characters that we sort of always had, in my opinion. Yeah, sure, Where the World Leo fighting the lone wolf Raph is always great to see. I mean, holy fuck, that fight scene in TMNT was cinematic perfection! But at the same time, this way kinda works better for me because it leaves open more growth for Leo and Raph. Think about it, Leo can grow more from his mistakes and mature into a leader we all know and love, but due to his overconfidence, he would inevitably slip up with his leadership skills and grow even further as a character, which is what ends up happening as he takes on temporary leadership when Raph is captured. While Raph, on the other hand, would need to learn to loosen up on his brothers, trusting them and believing that they can be independent first so they can work better as a team. This sudden alteration of character dynamics that we've been used to for years makes the family and teamwork aspect of this franchise work all the better because it makes it more believable that the both of them are flawed in some ways. Leo has always been a character who is mostly in the right, and the rest of the turtles do end up messing in some way. And while there are definitely stunts in growth as a leader in past iterations due to him believing that he's simply better than what he is, it's normally all the same with Leo's growth as a character. But overselling him as this arrogant, fallible, untrustworthy child makes it more believable that he needs his team rather than the team needing him. There's this one great scene with Leo and Casey where Casey reveals that in his timeline, every turtle dies and he goes out in history as the greatest warrior and leader to ever exist. But then he sees this Leo.
You're impulsive, you're arrogant, and you don't see that every decision you make could cost someone their life. The world needs Master Leonardo, and all we got is this guy.
This is a perfect reflection between the Leo we're used to seeing in past movies to who we're seeing now, and it almost feels like an intensive meta commentary on who this character is in this version. And the movie never forgives him for his irrational attitude, instead using those mistakes to learn a lesson that has a genuinely heartwarming payoff in the final act. It might just be one of the best scenes out of the entire TMNT franchise, right up there with the Raph and Leo fight in 2007 movie, concluding his arc of understanding Raph from himself in a very satisfying way.
I always figured you were mad because you didn't like the way I did things. You didn't yell because you were mad. You yelled because you were scared. It's scary to be responsible for the lives you protect. Your team, your family. But we do it anyway because that's what it means to be a hero. If this is it, I want you to know I finally understand. And I'm sorry.
Honestly, I could go on and on about the characterization of the Turtles, but then this video will come out a lot later, and I'm honestly a bit tired after tidying the video. Now, the one thing I mainly want to touch up on is how this movie completely subverted my expectations. I mean, come on, it had all the things at the start I've grown extremely tired of. Time travel? Check. Heroes losing their powers to gain in the climax? Check. The heroes getting over-obsessed about learning their future selves?
Check, check, check.
Simple base villain with very A creativity behind their backstory of their powers? Okay, that one really was the weakest part for me, but let's not worry about that. Realistically speaking, I should hate this movie. I should despise it with a burning passion. I should put this as one of my lowest ranking movies of 2022 and animated films of all time on Letterboxd. But I guess this isn't that type of video? I honestly can't explain it. There's lots of reasons that this movie gives for me to not like it, but it barely touches on any of them. The time travel stuff, like I said, is more character driven than worrying about the logistics of it all. It worries more about how to fix it rather than how time travel is even possible, or the effects things can have on the timeline, or that's not how time travel works stick. That and it all focuses on how with every change there's always a little bit of hope for the Turtles to keep on going. I think that is the hope aspect of the time travel idea that makes it less infuriating and isn't afraid to just brush off the logistics of time travel. And I think that the less they focused on the time travel, the less frustrating it became because the movie wanted us to not think about it. It was intentional to focus less on the concept so we as the audience could just simply believe that time travel is possible in this universe without thinking about paradox and timelines and such. And honestly, the same goes for the Mystic Powers thing. Again, coming from someone who hasn't seen the TV series, where them losing their powers isn't that big of a crucial plot point and focusing more on their own abilities rather than moping about how they don't have their powers anymore. Sure, it weakens the Turtles tremendously, but them being too dependent on their mystic powers never becomes a big part of the character drama in the movie, and it makes the movie all the more better. They add in so many different things in this movie to the point where it should feel cluttered, but these are kind of backdrops of the movie that are used to heighten the characters and their growth in the movie instead of focusing on those individual concepts as their own separate points of the movie. Because the whole theme of the movie revolves around family and coming together as a team, despite the radical differences or lack of powers. That despite every struggle that they've been through, every argument, every weakness exploited, that they are more than their faults.
Mikey, Donnie, we can fight this. Raph's doing it for us, so we do it for him. That alien jerkface thinks we're weak. Because he hasn't seen what we can do. When we fight together.
Almost every aspect of this movie is outright charming and wholesome that ended up having a lot of depth behind its script and its characters. There's even a brainwashing sequence with Raph and Leo that isn't terrible. I hate brainwashing in movies. It's so redundant, but it's not here. It's almost like the writers weren't lazy with their script. If anything, the villain is honestly just kinda forgettable. Much like the time traveler losing powers, this is something that's just in the sidelines while the movie is so laser focused on building the characters and the relationships. And while I really appreciate that amount of dedication, I just wish the villain was a bit more interesting. Even then, the design choice along the fight scenes with them ended up being genuinely terrifying. Also, Mikey being a sorcerer who can manipulate time and space is a bit outlandish and kinda comes out of nowhere beyond an explanation. I don't know, maybe let's explore more in the show. But besides that, this movie is such of a fresh show. I have never been more elated to watch a 2D animated product. That's like literally all I've been watching within the past couple weeks. I miss my silly 2D cartoons. I wish that we've got more movies like this year because while 3D animation is still great sometimes, I think there's something so stylistically unique with 2D animation that we rarely get to see anymore, and I seriously don't know why. This was a perfect example of why animation is still a great medium of filmmaking, so I'd be wrong if I didn't give the Rise of TMNT movie an 8.5 out of 10.
If this isn't the poster shot, someone's getting fired.
Also, I couldn't find a good spot to talk about Donnie and how I must love him and how he's the funniest character in the movie. So here's a compilation of Donnie Appreciation clips. Okay, bye.
Prepare to be Donnied by my mystic tech. Why are you wearing genius-built apparel? That's trademarked. Oh, please. If time travel were possible, future Donnie would have come back and already given me all the lottery numbers. Like we planned. According to the subcutaneous tracker I put on Raph.
Wait, does that mean you put trackers on all of us?
No. No. Of course I did. Int. Oh, keep it down, Vomitello.
Oh.
Keep it down, Daddy. We've extracted ourselves from the subway and are currently ascending a staircase. I'm getting a lot of interference, but if you hold still, I can triangulate your position using a complex geolocation algorithm.
Donnie?
Primes? Almost! Almost! I never get to use my algorithm.
Thank you all so much for watching. Honestly, I've kind of needed a break for comic book movie stuff, and this movie was everything I needed and more. If you liked this video, be sure to tell me what your thoughts are on the movie or my critique of it. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you know if I have future content releases. It helps out here a lot, it's free, and you can always subscribe later. Oh yeah, and I have a Twitch channel on my gaming channel, so be sure to check that out in the description below. I'm Vela-Nova, signing off.